You know, back in the winter of 2022, a huge storm swept across the U.S. But for one airline, it wasn't just a storm, it was a full-on, system-wide meltdown. This isn't just a story about some bad weather, folks. It's a critical lesson in how ignoring those little hidden technical problems can snowball into an absolute catastrophe. Let's get into it.
Just look at this number. Over 15,000 flights. That's how many Southwest Airlines canceled during the peak holiday season. We are not talking about a few frustrating delays here. We are talking about the entire operation grinding to a halt.
And here's where it gets really strange. See, every major airline got hit by the same storm. American, Delta, United, sure, they had a rough day, maybe two, and then they got back on their feet. But Southwest, they just kept spiraling, deeper and deeper. It was obvious this wasn't just about the snow. Something was fundamentally broken.
And the human cost was just staggering. Behind every one of those 15,000 cancellations were hundreds of thousands of real people, stranded during one of the most important times of the year. Families couldn't get home for the holidays. Vacations were completely ruined. The damage went way, way beyond dollars and cents. It absolutely shattered trust in the brand.
So what on earth was the real problem? The diagnosis, when you boil it all down, comes down to this one crucial concept. It's a silent killer in any organization that runs on tech. It's called technical debt.
The easiest way to wrap your head around technical debt is to think about something we all get, financial debt, right? You borrow money for a quick win, maybe to buy a car or start a business, knowing you have to pay it back later, and you'll have to pay interest on top of it. Well, technical debt is exactly the same principle, just with software. You take a shortcut now to get something out the door faster, but you're just creating a bigger, uglier, and way more expensive problem to solve later on.
This term was actually coined way back in 1992 by a developer named Ward Cunningham. And it's basically the cost you rack up every single time someone says, we'll fix it later. The trouble is, later has a nasty habit of becoming never, right up until a crisis like this one forces your hand.
And this, right here, was the ticking time bomb inside Southwest. Their main crew scheduling software, the digital brain that's supposed to get pilots and flight attendants to the right planes at the right time, was over 2 decades old. I mean, think about that. It was a fossil from a time when the airline was just a fraction of its current size. This was their Mount Everest of technical debt.
So, you might be asking, how could one single piece of ancient software bring an entire massive airline to its knees? Well, it wasn't just one failure. It was a horrifying chain reaction.
Okay, let's trace the collapse, step by step. First, the storm hits. Cancellations everywhere. No big surprise. But here's the thing about Southwest. Their network scatters crews all over the place. So when they tried to reroute everybody, their old software was hit with a tidal wave of requests it was never, ever designed to handle. It just choked, and then it completely died. And the backup plan? People trying to sort it all out by hand? At that scale, that's like trying to bail out the Titanic with a teaspoon. It was doomed. But here is the most unbelievable part of this whole story. This was not a surprise. They knew. The company had literally warned its own shareholders that its tech was fragile and could fail in extreme weather. They knew the debt was there. They just kept kicking the can down the road, hoping the bill would never come due.
You know, this whole thing goes so much deeper than just some old creaky code. Why would a massive billion-dollar company knowingly let a mission-critical system just rot? The answer wasn't in their servers. It was in their culture.
According to someone who worked there, a former senior software engineer, there was a huge breakdown in communication. The engineers, the people who actually understood the tech, were sounding the alarm bells, but that critical message was getting lost or worse, twisted by middle managers on its way up to the executives who could actually do something about it.
So this wasn't just, accidental neglect. This was an active refusal to modernize. This insider account paints a picture of a culture that covered up problems, that preferred to slap some duct tape on the cracks instead of actually fixing the foundation, all because it was easier in the short term.
And this right here is maybe the most damning part of it all. Can you imagine being an engineer trying to prevent the exact disaster that eventually happened, and your reward is that your boss gets angry at you? When your company culture actively punishes people for trying to make things better, a meltdown isn't just a possibility, it is an absolute inevitability.
So what's the bottom line? Southwest had a fatal identity crisis.
Look, in the 21st century, an airline is a technology company that happens to fly planes. A bank is a technology company that happens to move money. If you don't get that, you're basically destined to become a case study, right alongside Blockbuster Video.
So, the bill for all that technical debt came due in the most public, painful way imaginable. What are the lessons here? More importantly, how can other organizations, maybe yours, avoid this exact same fate? So how do you stop this from happening to you? You have to tackle technical debt head-on. That means you have to clearly define what done actually means, so you stop shipping shortcuts. It means you build a culture of collaboration, so crucial knowledge doesn't live in just one person's head. You have to automate your quality checks to catch these problems early. And, this is the big one, you have to treat technical debt like real financial debt and make a concrete plan to pay it down.
At the end of the day, managing technical debt isn't just some IT problem. It is a fundamental business strategy. Being proactive is the only thing standing between running a smooth operation and having a complete, public, brand-destroying failure.
And that really leaves us with one final thought for you to chew on. Every organization, every single one, is building up its own technical debt in its systems, in its processes. The real question is, do you know where yours is hiding? And do you have a plan for when that bill finally comes due? Thanks for watching.